methods can take multiple parameters, just like functions in C++. So let's go ahead and create a method that will add two numbers together. Static int add nums, int n1, int n2, for instance. And now this is going to return, so I can go ahead and say return n1 plus n2. And now when I call this, I just need to make sure I pass in two parameters for this particular method call. So console.writeLine, and I'm just going to say 42 plus 15 is equal to, and then I'll just do add nums 42, 15. And so when I run this, I will get 42 plus 15, which is 57. So it is taking in two variables or two values as parameters for this. And then inside of the method, we're just returning the sum of those two. If we want to make this a little bit more dynamic, we can go ahead and do this. So let's just go ahead and create two variables here, int num1, num2. And I want to read this in. So console.write, please enter two whole numbers separated by a space. And again, I'm not going to worry about data validation. I'm going to assume that they're going to be typing in two whole numbers separated by a space for right now. And now I need to read it in. Oh, I need to create a string, input string, for instance. Input string is equal to console.read line. So I'm just going to read in that string. So now I have that string, and so this input string will look something like this, 42 space 15, for instance. And now I need to split it up. Put string is equal to input string dot split. Oh, and actually that's not quite right, because this is going to return a string array. So I need to create a string array, split string. And so this, instead of being input string, this will be split string. And so I split up the string into this, and so now this will look like something like this, 42, 15. So it will look like that. And now I just set each of these variables to it. So I say num1 is equal to int.parse split string square bracket 0, and num2 is equal to int.parse split string square brackets 1. And again, I am assuming that these are actually integers. I'm not going to worry about data validation. That's just a little bit of extra bookkeeping. And now we can do console.writeLine. And now we can say num1 plus num2 is equal to add nums num1, num2. So notice that all I did was I just, instead of hard coding the values here, I just used variables. The end result should be exactly the same as what we get before. And we can type in two numbers, 42, 15, and now we get the output there. We can add in an optional parameter. So notice that this always requires two parameters, but sometimes you may want to say, okay, let's go ahead and add these two numbers, but if you want to scale it by some constant value, we can take that in. So we could say int scale equals 1, for instance. And then this, instead of just adding them, we'll go ahead and multiply this by scale. whatever our scaling factor is. So notice that our method is okay. Notice that our call here is okay. It says n1, num1, n2, num2. Notice that nothing is complaining, even though we have a third parameter there. This third parameter is an optional parameter. If I run it, everything will work fine. 42, 15. 42 plus 15 is equal to 57. But because I have this optional parameter there, I can pass in another value. I can say 2. And so this is going to be the scale. So this is optional. So I can either include something or not include something. And now if I add in two numbers, 42, 15, now it is taking my previous answer, which is 57, multiplying it by 2, which is a scale, because that's what I overwrote here. And then now we're getting an answer of 114. So optional parameters are declared the same way. You just do an equal sign and then whatever the default value for that is. If the variable is included, or the value or the parameter is included, the argument is included, then it overwrites what is in that location. If it is not included, then its default value is going to be whatever you set there. Notice that we get 42 and 15. The other way that you can call these is you can say n1 colon num1. n2 colon is that scale colon 2. And so this is just being a little bit more explicit, but that is saying specifically I'm going into n1, specifically I'm going into n2, and specifically I'm going into scale. And if you do it like this, you can change the order of these because you are calling that specific value. So swapping n1 and n2 doesn't really matter, but if I put scale at the beginning, go ahead and get rid of that, do scale like that. Now notice that scale is 2, but it's not the first parameter there, it is actually taking the place of scale. So if I run this, 42, 15, notice that we're getting the same output. The other important thing to note is that all optional parameters have to come after required parameters. I cannot put this at the beginning. It's going to complain. It says optional parameters must appear after all required parameters. So again, if you are using optional parameters, those have to come after all of your other parameters in your method call there.